Hey gamers, welcome to my channel. And today, as you can see by the title, I'm going to talk a little about how I get into the Final Fantasy series. I started playing video games in the beginning of the 90s, but I never played any RPG. My first RPG was Grandia 2 in the Dreamcast, followed by Skies of Arcadia, also in the Dreamcast. And I only played Final Fantasy for the first time in 2012. And it was this one, Final Fantasy XIII. That is for many the black sheep of the series. I bought the game very cheap in the local store and I went home to play it. My first impressions were not good, but one thing that I love is that we didn't have random enemies encounters. We can see the enemies in the screen and we can choose if we want to fight them or not, exactly as Grandia. Because although I love Skies of Arcadia, I hate the random enemies encounters. And overall, after understanding the game and the mechanics, I ended liking the game. And through the years, I finished it a couple of times. And Lightning is still today my favorite character in any Final Fantasy. Then my next move in the Final Fantasy series was buying the digital copies of Final Fantasy 7, 8 and 9 for the PlayStation 3. And because I read so many times that Final Fantasy 7 was the best, I start with Final Fantasy 9, then 8, and I would save 7 that was supposed to be the best for last. And let me tell you guys, and girls, I love Final Fantasy 9. I love the world, the humor, Zidane, Garnet, Rusty, Vivi, that I almost forgot about the random enemies encounters. And to this day, is still my second favorite game in the series. I'm not going to tell you my favorite game yet, don't be lazy, keep watching the video. So after that, as I said before, I start playing Final Fantasy 8, that I also like, but in my opinion, it doesn't have the same quality as 9. Of course that this is just my personal opinion. Personally, I like more the world and the characters in Final Fantasy 9. And I found Final Fantasy 8 very serious, with very little humor. Yet, it wasn't by any means a waste of time, because overall I enjoyed the game. Then I started playing 7 with high expectations, but those expectations were short compared to 9. Don't get me wrong, I like 7, but in my opinion Cloud is a little soulless and not near as fun as Zidane in Final Fantasy 9. I also didn't like the long cutscenes when we cast a summon. It was definitely better than 8, but in my opinion, not as good as 9. Then I played in the Game Boy Advance Final Fantasy 4, that is still today one of my favorites. It was the first Final Fantasy in 2D that I played, and I absolutely love it. It was the smaller game I played in the series at that time, but I love the characters, music and gameplay. And then after finish 4, I played 5 and 6, also in the Game Boy Advance. And just as Final Fantasy 8 fell short compared to 9, I felt the same with Final Fantasy 5 comparing to 4. But the best was yet to come, Final Fantasy 6. I didn't expect the game was so good. We play with 14 playable characters, and the graphics are one of the best in the 16-bit era. It is still today my favorite game in the series. There you have it. And one of the games with the best original soundtrack that I ever played. And continuing moving backwards in the series, I played Final Fantasy 1 and 2 in the PlayStation Portable. Personally, I love the first one, but I understand why most gamers didn't like the second one that much. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game, but it's not as good as the first one, and obvious it didn't have the impact of the first. Then I played and loved Final Fantasy 3 in the Nintendo DS. That is the complete 3D remake of the original game. This third one was the first game in the series that introduced the job systems and summons. Playing the DS version in 3D, it helped me to enjoy the game even more. Then I played for the PlayStation 3 Final Fantasy X. By this time, and after having played so many games, I kind of adapt to the random enemies encounters, and this Final Fantasy X was undoubted one of my favorites. It was the first in the series that have voice acting, and I love the characters, especially Tidus and Yuna. I just didn't like very much the Blitzball game. Final Fantasy XII was the next in my list, and I hated it in the beginning. I didn't understand the battle system and I dropped the game. it was only after a year, encouraged by some friends, that I gave the game another chance. And I'm glad I did, because it is in my top 5 Final Fantasy games. And finally, for the first time in the series, we can see the enemies in the screen, avoiding the annoying random encounters. Then, the last one I played, it was Final Fantasy 15. Because unfortunately I haven't bought Final Fantasy 6, and the reason for that is simple: I'm poor. About this 15, contrary to most, I love it. The world is much open than previous games, and before I start this game, I played and finished Metal Gear Solid 5, that also is more open than previous games in the Metal Gear series, and it have primary and secondary missions. And in both aspects, I found this Final Fantasy 15 very similar. I love the characters, the story, the main villain, the gameplay in real time, and overall, it is one of my favorites. So, to conclude, Final Fantasy is one of my favorite series, and I can't wait to play the 16, as well as some other games in the series that I miss, such as Final Fantasy 4 After Years, Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Winds, or Lightning Returns. If you ask me for my top 5, I will probably answer 6, 9, 10, 12 and 15. So that's it, that's my journey playing Final Fantasy. Please, tell me your favorites in the comments too. As always, I hope you like this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.